uh, Diane Gall, Dr. Diane Gall is here as well. She's going to be explaining some of her work. Our dean, Dr. Nathan Gagne, is here as well, and bringing in their own experience and some of the things they do for the college. But we'll give the first 10-15 minutes or so to getting everybody on board with some of the basics. So if you, keep text chatting, we'll have a little repartee going for a bit here so that everybody can hear. I find when you go into a webinar and nobody's talking, sometimes you don't know whether your speaker is working. Diane Gall, Dr. Diane Gall is here as well. She's going to be explaining some of her work. Our dean, Dr. Nathan Gagne, is here as well, and he's my boss, so say nice things while he's here. Yeah, and what we have here is an assembling group of students, alumni, friends, and I see Kelsey here. Kelsey has come over from UAlbany, and I am deliberately not moving too far away because I want to be able to see what's going on here. But we do have helpers, and I'll explain that all just in a moment. I have my notes here. And thank you to faculty and deans who have also come out on their Saturday because they're excited about this possibility and they want to say hello to you. I'm going to give it just another moment or two. Hi, Kelsey. Kelsey, I'm going to ask everyone shortly to type in the chat something about just themselves, their names, where they're from. But in the meantime, I think as people are still assembling, I'm going to just kind of call out generally. What I'll be doing is going over, although I'm not sure which remark you're seconding, Scott, I'll go over some basics, but a very good basic that Selby was reminding me, okay, you're funding, is that if you click the nearby chat button on the bottom left, you're going to see what's transpired. And what will happen today is we're going to wind up having a very long chat box, and I'm afraid things might go zipping away and you won't get them. So I am recording. We have several people recording the conference. And so, okay, I'm checking the time, and we should get started now with some of the basics. And the first basics, I just want to go over a couple of logistics and a couple of help areas that we have. I want to thank everybody for coming. We will be trying to record this a number of ways. And the first thing I want to remind you is this is an immersive experience. The idea is that you are not just sitting at a Skype session, you're not in a physical world, but we are sharing through a different forum. And we have created some rich environments that you're going to look at. And our goal is to get you together as a learning community, but to also model some of the things you can do. And so thank you all for coming in from literally, certainly around the United States. Selby's in from Texas, Telly's in from Chicago. Maybe the rest of us are mostly from New York and New Jersey. And we have Dr. Diane Gall, who's going under Lubzda Pomocnik. Diane, did I say that right? Do you want to, I don't know if you want to take the mic.
It's Lyuba Pomochnik.
Classic lecture, but I'm going to be giving you URLs to test as we go so that everybody can learn some of the fundamentals. And for some of the more advanced virtual people here, most of these folks have had very minimal experience in virtual reality. They're not builders. They're really not good navigators yet. They'll get better by the end. So we do have folks here, Selby, Telly, Jana, you'll see their names, who can take you to the side if you're having some trouble with your microphone or need some extra help. They're here to help. And what we also do want to remind you of a few things you can do. Will be mostly for the first hour or so using the text chat, because one of the most problematic areas are the microphones. You have to remember with your microphone, unless you, like I right now, I have a mic right next to my mouth. I have my headset on. We'll pick up your background noise. And so you want to, even when you're in your breakout groups, toggle that on and off. But another very important thing that I've sent out a number of times, but you might want to look at it, is the viewing. And even for people who are only staying for a while, there is a built-in camera movement. What is it called? If you go up under and click the term avatar on the top left, and then come down and see camera controls, you want that to be checked. So just, if you haven't done that, just go up under avatar, click on the camera controls. That puts a wheel and a cross up in the top left. And those allow you to rotate your camera. They allow you to change your point of view, and they can move left and right. So you might want to just try that for a moment. And, oh, Jeremy. Jeremy is one of our developers. He's using the more advanced viewer. Jeremy, I don't know where that is. I haven't used that viewer for a while. If anybody else knows, they could tell Jeremy. Most of you are using Firestorm Viewer. That's a fairly straightforward one. For developers, Singularity is a little more advanced. I'm afraid I don't know and won't be able to find out right now, but Jeremy knows how to get around in this environment. But for the rest of you, just play with that wheel a little bit. And yeah, crashes can be Firestorm. Crashes tend to be if you have an underjuiced computer. And right now we are putting a high demand on the server that is working for us. So part of what I want to continue servers. So that's why we're going to keep it minimalist, ask you to be patient. If you get logged off, then just log back in. If I get logged off, I have a second computer here, but I'm hoping that will be pretty straightforward. And I'm going to give you a couple more startup directions. Then at about 9:15, we're going to ask the faculty and the dean to say a little bit about their work. We'll then have the augmented continuum that's coming out now. I'll be going over some of that. There'll be a lot of slides. You're going to be getting a PowerPoint that you can click later. So we'll be going over that. And after we've gone through the initial phases, you're going to get more opportunities to talk among yourself. So we're going to start fairly lecture-based so that you can get your virtual legs, but then we're going to have opportunities for you to interact with one another, because this is to simulate a type of conference. And I'm using the term residency, which is something that we do at Empire State College where people get together physically. We're now trying to see whether a residency model would work in virtual environments. So I will be asking you to fill in a form. It's anonymous, that you can help us look at how to design these type of environments so that you don't have to travel, but we can still get together, and I'll be asking for your feedback. So bear with me, we're all growing. Two other things. Be sure you know how to turn on, Selby taught me about recently. The bottom are the most frequently used buttons. The one with the two people does show you who's nearby. So if your camera isn't too good, you can't pick up everybody there, you can toggle that on and off. And later in the day, we'll have some group breakouts. And so I'm hoping you'll get to know everybody here. They're wonderful for all different reasons. And so let me just look at my startup notes for a minute. Oh, if any of you are sitting in the dark, some of you might like that, but it depends on the way your sun is set. If you go up under World and then slide down to sun position. Midday is the one that shows you all the most clearly. So I'm recording in midday, but if you want to have that sunset look or sunrise, do change your view. But whatever way you do it, you have control over that. But just remember, if you're in the dark and you don't like that, then you can change your setting. Let me see, another couple more housekeeping points. We'll do more conversations later, but for basic housekeeping, I'm asking you to be patient, sun position, camera. Oh, and all of you do take snapshots, and you will get that snapshot sound, which can be disabled, but I can't remember how you do it. And you've got that camera on the bottom. I know some of you that are taking this as part of a class, you're going to need to have some documentation of your visits. But the real treat is after this startup, you're going to get to Dr. Alon's island, and she is not only wonderful in virtual mechanics, but she is an artist, and her island is beautifully laid out. My island is a warehouse. I've put it together for students, and over the years, I've accumulated a lot of things, including a lot of experience about how not to design things. But my island is an opportunity for people to come and get items. If you have time later, all the buildings around this lower island, I have an island called Marion Test, which is a sandbox that you can use later. But for now, realize that my island has evolved over 10 years, and it's glitchy because of too much terraforming. But I think, bear with it. It's not perfect, but it's a teacher's island. So, okay, enough of the logistics. We want to get started saying hello while we have our dean and our faculty here. But could you all, just so that the faculty know who's here, okay. All right, and please keep on introducing yourself during the day. We want you to get to know one another. I think that, adult students bring rich backgrounds, and we want you all to share and learn from each other. So now I'm going to have the dean and the faculty members here just give a moment or two about themselves. And Dean Gagne, you want to come up on stage? We'll see how good he is with that. Thank him very much for taking the time to say hello to us. And I'm going to turn my mic off. Dean, if you have any trouble, I'll turn my mic back on. But I don't know if you can take your mic and just say hello to everybody. And then I'll have the faculty say hello as well. And you turn on the mic by having that check mark next to the microphone on the bottom. Make sure that's checked. And then you toggle the mic on and off, and you should be able to speak.
Eileen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here and happy to see so many folks joining this virtual residency. I just want to say that I think this is a really exciting first for School for Graduate Studies to have a residency like this. One of the things that the school has put in our newly approved strategic plan is trying to create ways to build community, especially in our fully online programs. And I think that Eileen and the other faculty in the MALT program have really been leaders to really use it to bring folks together, help students share ideas, and help our programs make more of an impact for folks. So I don't want to take too much of your time. I just really want to say thank you for coming. I hope everyone has a really great experience today, and I will leave it to the experts to guide you through the rest of the day.
Well, thank you so much, Dean Gagne. I appreciate your coming in, getting in, and he's been a wonderful support to the Mallet program, and very great to be doing in an evaluative form so that they can help us grow this type of meeting and help us in the future. Now, I'm going to just say Dr. Gal, since I messed up your last name there, and she is going to tell you about some other community building that she's doing as well as her teaching.
Thanks, Eileen. I appreciate that. I'll be brief because I'm so excited about this agenda. There is a lot that you guys have lined up. And so the only thing I would like to say is that in the past year and a half or so, our team here has been working on another way for us to gather as a community by breaking us out of the LMS, the learning management systems that we typically work through our courses with. And we created a prototype of an environment where we can enter directly and have quick access to all the tools and environments, including Kitely, that we use on a regular basis. So I really just want to focus on this immersive experience all day today, and give everybody a heads up that we will be sending out some more information and inviting you to join us in our prototype environment in the coming weeks. So thank you again, Eileen, and Nicola and Mark and everybody else who has attended here.
Thank you, Diane, and hopefully you'll all be getting to take some of Diane's classes. She is very good looking at also the social aspects and the ethical aspects of these new type of learning environments coming up. So you'll all get a chance to work with her more, and you'll also get a lot of time with Dr. Alan, who I know is here under a pseudonym, and I think she's coming up towards the stage here.
I'm right here.
Okay.
I'm right here.
You want to tell everybody about yourself?
Yes, thank you, Eileen, and thank you for the wonderful introduction and opening comments, and to you, Nathan and Diane as well. Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria. You'll see that my avatar name is Rangitake Takakura, and that's because I have been in virtual worlds for a long time, since around 2000, and from the very early inception of what was Second Life, the very exciting virtual world that we all started building in years ago. And at that time, you had to take a name that was provided to you. You couldn't choose your name. And so the last name I chose was Takakura because it is very close to my great-great-grandmother's last name, Tekurio. And so I use her name Rangitake in here. I won't go at length regarding what I'll be doing with you because this is in immersive learning, virtual worlds learning, digital media arts and technologies, and a wide ranges of areas that cover the interstices and intersections between those areas. So I look forward to speaking with you later on today.
Thank you, Dr. Alan. And I think I saw Mark Lewis in the background. Mark, can you take the mic and explain how you are working with, hopefully, a lot of these students over time?
Hi, it's Mark Lewis, and I teach the instructional design for online learning class. I also have a course which has yet to run called Advanced Instructional Design, and I also teach digital games simulation and learning for the graduate program. And then also for the undergraduate program, I teach game design and development. So my interests basically are, of course, in instructional design, but also I I do some user experience, and I'm also interested in exploring more, which we'll talk about today, using games for networked learning. So I'll be introducing that a little bit later on today. I'll talk about the Unity game engine and also how I can't explain exactly how to do it, but I'll be talking at a high level about how you can create a networked game.
Right, we have Mark's expertise, which also he's been in theater and design as well. So he's had many lives, many master's programs under his belt, and he brings so much to us. And so I'm hoping you'll all get to know him more over time. Now, what I'm going to do is before Owen, and now we're going to look at some of our supporters and helpers who are here. And we've got a number of our alums here, and I want to catch them before they leave. I'm trying to read all of the headlines here. Telly, I heard you here. I don't see you right now. Previous life in theater. You know, we have several theater folks, we have artists, and then we have some STEM people like myself, and we all work together. I'm kind of the backbone person who puts together some of the basics, and the artist people help me make it look nice. And you should have seen my island before. It's greatly improved. Also, let's see, I'm looking, oh yes, and you really have to get to know our faculty. They have incredible backgrounds with and before and outside of academia, as well as what you're going to be knowing them for directly in courses. So, Telly, are you still here? Can you take the mic for a minute if she is?
I am still here. I'm in
Okay.
the back
Right.
taking notes. I am a graduate student. I think we were part of the first class of 2016. And I'm especially kind of sitting back here taking notes. I do a lot of face-to-face presentations and event planning with my job. And so I am exceedingly excited to be seeing, we've been talking about this, Eileen, forever, this kind of residency happening. So I'm taking notes and filming and so forth just to be able to see how all of this is working together, and this is just brilliant. So congratulations to the faculty for putting this on. So I'm all the way in the back. So.
Okay, and we're all learning the logistics of a large group too. And so Telly will be helping us with the evaluation of this as you provide the evaluative comments as well. Now I think, and I don't want to miss people, we're going to wrap it up with Selby because he's really a true expert, but I think I see Jana here as well. Jana is another one of our alums. And Jana, you want to take the mic and just say who you are? And she's volunteered to help people who get strayed or lost or just want to meet her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jana, and if you have any questions or anything, just private message me, and I'll help as I can. Great to meet everyone.
Okay, that's great. And we have our dean. I think he's still here. He's in charge of physical residencies. We do have them, and I think Dr. Gall is having one in one of her programs. There are concerns with how to get people to travel and afford hotels and things like that. But I know Metro does have, which is the New York City location, has a fair number of physical residencies for some of their undergraduate programs too. Yeah. Oh, and Telly, I don't know if I don't want to share more than she might want to have shared, but she does work a lot with senior groups, and they're looking more at how do we work immersively. We all know how to get together physically and meet, but how do we do it virtually? And that's a big goal of the Mallet program. I think we all know how to drive someplace and show up and talk, but how do we make it so people don't have to drive? And for some of us who really aren't able to always get physically someplace, how can we still be part of conversations? So keep in mind we do have lots of options at Empire State College for ways that people meet. We have our classic physical residencies, but we are also branching out and seeing how we can expand. Now, let me see. Jenna, okay, I don't want to miss any other alumni or helpers, but I think we'll move. Oh, is Saley here? Saley? I'm sorry, I can't see all of the heading. Saley, you want to say hello? Actually, Saley is still, I shouldn't say still, but Saley she's not quite an alum yet, but she has been a wonderful supporter. So Saley, you want to take the mic?
Let me make sure I'm talking here. Oh, yes. I want to let everyone know that one of my goals, and I never planned on being involved in virtual worlds until I learned of all its potential, is to just help out other students and educators. So I've been trying to learn as much as I can, and I am forever being inspired by Dr. O'Connor and Dr. Gagne and Dr. Elaine. So we have some incredible professors here that are really helping build the future movers and shakers in this environment. So we're very lucky to have them.
Now, that wasn't a paid commercial announcement, but thank you very much, Saley. I appreciate that. I will have to say, it's our students that grow us, and I think all the faculty will agree. We're very blessed to have adult students because you bring so much forward, and you bring your lives, your histories, your theater, your arts, your STEM backgrounds. They're all going to come together to help us grow as a really innovative, future-thinking community that now allows us to have a global outreach. You know, we're at baby steps, but we're going to be enjoying that in the future. Two other people, Kelsey, not to put you on the spot, but if you could take the mic, maybe you might say where you come from. I think we'd all like to know that. And I will say Kelsey has not been in a course yet, so I don't know that she knows how to take the mic, but maybe it's a little early to ask you to do that. But if not, we'll get you later. Kelsey has come over from the University at Albany, and maybe she'll type in the chat. This is her first virtual experience, so we haven't tested her mics yet, but we're glad to have her. And
hi.
Oh, yes. Say hello, Kelsey.
Oh, figured it out. Yes, so I am learning. I am Kelsey O'Brien. I'm a librarian at the University at Albany, SUNY, and I'm very new to this, so I'm definitely excited to learn today. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, Kelsey, and we'll be asking you to help us evaluate this experience and determine how we can improve it and share it. Now, I'm looking at more names. Okay, before we go on to my presentation, I think we want to bring in Selby, who is modestly sitting in the back, but has much to teach all of us. He's a little advanced level. He's got a blog you have to see, but he's been most gracious at helping all of us. So Selby, before we go on with the show, can you just say a hello to everybody? And you might have heard some of his sage advice earlier.
Yeah, well, I'll say hello to everybody and comment. One of the advantages that I have long learned in virtual worlds, no matter where you go, you always know where the bathroom is. Us elderly men are very much interested in that issue. And feel free to ask me a question. Send me a query. You can friend me. I friend anybody who wants to friend me. And if you send me a question, I will probably get it and be able to answer it pretty soon. All right. Thank you very much. I'll close on that issue.
Well, and I have to agree with Selby. I went through some medical issues over a couple of years, and thank goodness for virtual. I was able to keep up and stay involved and be a contributor. And I think the idea that we are all sitting in the comfort of our home, you didn't have to drive into New York City, find a parking space, pay for a hotel. You know, these are things that allow us to communicate more. And for many people who are homebound, you know, environments like this can give people a true lifeline. And for people who have disabilities, there's a lot of research coming out. We have a student who's now at Cornell where they're looking at engaged kind of environments as a way to reduce the amount of opioids they're using. So, yeah, and John doesn't have to share his cold with us. You know, I had to become a bit of a germaphobe because of some of the treatments I was going under, and I was very grateful that I was able to get together, you know, in virtual environments and still feel as though I was part of things. So, speaking of being part of things, to keep with the agenda, and thank you everybody for coming, and also from our wonderful students and supporters, the alumni and people like Selby who are talking now. I'm going to show you too that I have been in these environments for over 10 years, and I will say that Dr. Elan was my intro into these environments when I first met her physically, and unlike me, I will have to say she's a very attractive regular person as well as avatar, and so I think I'm going to be thanking her, and you'll get to meet her a lot more. But I am backing up here because I'm not that good at navigating, and I want to not turn my back to you, but the slides that you see here are part of a slide thing that you can turn. When I invite you later to, yes, when I invite you later to visit other students' work, which is placed in buildings around the island, you'll see something like this. You can turn the slides. If Selby hadn't taught me the magic prim, I have a prim in front of me blocking you and I from so that you can't turn the slides because I have a lot of visual slides to show you. And if you turn them, it will become chaos. But what I do encourage you to do is turn them when you go around, and later I'll take down the work, materials here. Now, I did go over the logistics at the end of my presentation. I'm going to kind of tell you how to get around to different places, and I'll be doing more on that. But in the meantime, I'm going to have my side to you a bit because I want to make sure I can turn these slides. I won't be able to see the slides. Yeah. You know, and I think what you're seeing is we're a community of learners. So I will now not be able to see if you're saying anything, you know, verbally. So please keep the text chat going. But in the meantime, I hope I'm not seeming rude, but I will ask if anybody else. Ryan raises a good question, and there is a way to do that. And I don't know if anyone wants to type in the chat so that the name labels, and I think it's under Avatar Preference General. I think you can disable the names, but you might want the names for later so you'll know who's who, because we do tend to have the same avatar outfits unless people have been in here for a while. So if questions come up, put them in the chat, but I won't be able to see you. And I will be sending out a few URLs, and so remember that nearby chat option you can toggle on and off. Oops. What I'll be doing now in launching this is I have a lot of visuals, and Selby and a couple of others helped me with this earlier. And what they did was showed me how to improve my presentation. So this is similar to what they saw, but it's been improved. And I'm thanking for the community that helped me get this together. So it will be very visual because this is hopefully not too lecture-like, but it's to orient you. And oops, and what you want to do is keep your mic toggled off now, unless you're like I that has a microphone right next to your mouth, because we'll pick up background noise. So we're going to look at virtual reality, which is what you're in and experiencing. And we're going to see how that's starting to move in with augmented reality. Then we'll look at some of the rather easy ways you can get in, and then look at the more complicated ways that currently exist if you want to create augmented reality. And thank you for all the help in the chat. First of all, just to look at augmented, it's coming about. I'm going to be asking you all a little bit more as we get going, but I went to Wikipedia. I do like Wikipedia for basics, so I'm not a faculty member who poo-poos Wikipedia, but I do agree that when you really need to dig into research, you have to go beyond it. But they're pointing out how augmented overlays experience, and there are quite a number of different flavors coming about. So we'll be thinking about some of that now. But first of all, how many of you either have actually done Pokemon or know of somebody who has? A friend, a child? Type in the chat. Okay. Oh, those who are me's, did that mean you actually did it or you know about it? Okay, students, sons. Oh, and Scott's in Ithaca, and he was telling us in the class the other day that he's actually doing a type of augmented reality Halloween theme. Okay. 20K college students. Oh. Well, I'm going to go to the next slide for a minute. Oh, so, okay. We have a pretty progressive group. If you can see this next slide, and remember, and I think some of you were saying, if you, on a PC, if you hold down Alt, you get that little magnifying glass, which lets you click on something you want to focus on, like if you want to focus up on the slides. And this is why I had to put the shield up, or else you would change the slides for me. But, you know, some people were physically worried about kids walking around disoriented. Some people, and I went international, if you can see the one on the left, was an international organization, you know, worried about issues of student identity, you know, identity and everything, that you'll find that some people had concerns. So it's coming. Augmented reality is coming. It is right now expensive to develop, but business is looking at it, and we have 3 students that are sitting here right now who will be actually developing their own augmented reality apps, and they're going to be coming back on December 5th to share them. So I'm thinking that maybe we'll see what they think after they've developed some apps on their own. Oh my goodness. John Springer, so I didn't know about that. So there can be physical dangers. I have a lot of family who are just sort of anti-tech. They don't want to see their kids sucked into computers. And so you'll see at the end some of my family, you know, so they tend to be naysayers. But anybody see Ready Player One? Anyone see that from Spielberg? Okay. Yeah, I knew Dr. Alon would see that. Okay, really liked it. Okay. Well, and I had to admit I fell asleep at the end because when you have a lot of action scenes, my mind blanks out. Big sci-fi, yeah. Well, we're mini Ready Player One today. You are in an immersive experience. And so we're going to see. But what you noticed is gamers, Spielberg, you have to have the concept of a storyline. So keep that in mind. Story is important. We can make visual settings, but as teachers, as communicators, what's going to make people come to them? You know, after a while, okay, it's a pretty setting, but a lot's going to depend on what you're going to do in it. So, you know, they had a whole life, a whole storyline that was in and out of virtual and real reality. And I will be sending out this PowerPoint as a PDF. It's too big. So you will have all of these links. I thought about sending it out before, but then I didn't want you to get too distracted. So I'm going to be enticing you to go to these links. And MIT, as you might guess, has been in augmented reality. They had something that you could, yeah, you will definitely have all of these links. I want to be sure that everybody can get to them. They have, MIT has a number of programs that I think come out from this master organization in their education school, where they are developing easy ways for coding, learning how to do coding. They had something where they were walking around the Boston area, and that type of work takes more expertise. So we'll see. And yeah, oh, and yeah, you can become friends with one another. I just haven't taught you all the instant messaging type of things that are built into this environment, but please do get to know each other. Also, I found there's a group that I was very interested in out of Wisconsin that comes in, and you'll have this too. They've been doing virtual reality for a while, and they call it Field Day. They go in and have a field experience that you can join. The restriction I found here, though, everything was still towards Macs, towards iPhones, iOS, which were early people into this environment, but becomes a little pricey for schools and people today. So I didn't spend too much time investigating this, but keep in mind too, they're using the idea of a field trip and experience, something that the kids can have that is also around a story. It's not just around technology. And leaving some of those, because I'll come back to that later, I was just surfing and found that this one professor had a very interesting website, and I think when you get this, you can see his URL up at the top. He was showing how things have changed. The idea of augmenting and virtual reality is not new. It's been around since at least the 1950s, and arguably well before that. The augmented reality, and I'll show you soon with the stereoscopic lenses, has been something that was used from I think almost the late 1800s. But what's happening is bigger players are jumping in. The technology is getting more robust, it's getting more accessible. So you will see that you have more people getting both into virtual and augmented realities. But I didn't want us to leave without looking at some of the work we've been doing here at Empire State College. Some of the people who are here. Selby has a good point. Human imagination was the first virtual reality, and virtual reality is only limited by imagination. And then, of course, how do you download this and how do you make your avatar move? Those things get resolved relatively quickly. But what are you going to design? What are you going to do? Why are people going to want to come to your space? And so I'll show you some quick pictures, but I'll be telling you too, you're going to have breaks and times in between. I'll be sending out the links, but you might want to visit some of our wonderful students' islands. And if you see in that kind of reddish pink, I put down the name of the student island so you could locate them later under your world map if you want to visit. And you can always come back at other times. On the bottom is a link that when you get that was an excellent article that's open access. It means you don't have to have access to Empire State College Library. You can read it, that just is looking creatively and imaginatively at what's been happening and where it's going. It really shows that it's not just about games anymore. It can be about a lot more than that. And so that was Irene's Island. I think she might be coming in at some point, Irene Cruz. And let me just go. Well, I'm afraid to go back. Let me see if I can go back. I'm not going to try to go back. I might lose my place. Her island was developed for people coming into, they were working through the BOCES, but they wanted to have an opportunity to enculturate themselves to America. So she created an island repurposing work donated by artists, and she's created kind of a cultural American experience. and it's a fun place to visit. And Dr. Alon really helped her with the design, so it's well done. This island is an example of what a social studies teacher has done, and you could visit her island. It's still there. She went and got artifacts. I think she did actually commission an artist to help her, and she spent, $50 to $100 to get artifacts that simulate ancient Japan. And she has a whole kabuki theater. She has social studies materials that go along with this. So as you're thinking about what you could immerse people in, she wanted to bring her students in, and she had special ed students who needed extra support. She found out they really weren't learning from just textbooks, so she created an island for them. Here's another island. I don't know if Wales can join us today. He's actually en route to a conference, and he works with parents. Well, I shouldn't say that. He works with social workers who work with parents in problematic situations. He's created an island with all sorts of experiences on it. It's really fun to go see what he's done. I just took a snapshot of some buildings that he got that simulate a place in England where you actually, where some of the initial foundations of this parent education theory were designed. So he wanted to have something where you could go in and be with some of the actual developers of the concept. So, but he's got merry-go-rounds. He's got he works with a large Arab population in Schenectady. He's got things that simulate Arab culture. He's got all sorts of areas you might want to visit. And Al, I don't know if I've seen Al today. Al might be popping in at some point. Al is a professional videographer. He has an island called Video Production Worlds that some of you may have seen. When you go in, he's actually created interactive devices. And he did commission some programmers to work with him. You need to get to the programming level to do this. But I think, honestly, you will find some of the 3D developers can give you some relatively good prices. And so I think he was able to develop a lot of interactive spaces. So I'm hoping some of you can visit his work. And I think this is towards the end. We've got Celie, who is here. She might be in and out a bit today. She has an island called Multiverse Masters. I went over there just the other day and took a picture, where she has given us, as 3D developers, so many resources. Her island, like mine, tends to be a warehouse. When you go to her island, it takes a few minutes to actually open because she has so many materials. It's worth it. When you see in the upper right corner here, some of you went through the exercise. You can go and get non-playing characters. You can get elephants. A lot of this comes from the resources that Celie has acquired, and she's found resources that can be shared. And another thing I want to warn you, our students and myself and Dr. Alon can all swap out islands. In the click of a few buttons and maybe 5 minutes, this island that you're sitting on could be a different island. So what we do as developers, we're educators, we don't have a lot of money. We save our islands, we create something, we save it. It's an export function, and then you can bring up another island. So Celie has a lot of work. Her island might not always be the same. The different people here may swap out their islands. So if you see something different, don't be surprised. It's one of the wonderful things about open source islands. We've had a lot of people donate materials that we use. You can create your own. And I wanted to put Jana's here, but I was having trouble getting to her island. She's got a cattle drive. Jana comes from a cattle family herself, and she really wanted history to be taught more than just textbooks. But I couldn't get to her island the other day, and I don't know whether she had swapped it out, so you don't see it here. We have an artist, and she's the one who helped me improve my island design a little while ago. That's Sculpture Island. And I just took, she has imagination, visual imagination that I envy. So I went by and took a snapshot of hers. You'll see her name show up here. She has a pseudonym as well. And I think it's Anais Lillian. If you see Anais Lillian, that is our own Marjorie Thompson, who has done wonderful work. But before we leave virtual, we have to give a shout out to Selby. Now, one of the big limitations of virtual is you need to have a pretty robust computer. You need to have high-speed internet, and that's fine for gamers. That's fine for kids. It can be a real impediment to bringing in a quick adult population. We've all been asking for a web-based interface. Still lots of technical issues there. And Selby has, and you will have all of these links, but Selby was kind enough to bring a group of us on a tour of a web-based island. And he's putting that link into the world here. It's not going to be particularly realistic avatars. It's going to be limited, but it's a very good way to have meetings where you just send out a link. And there's a whole field emerging around this as the different technologies are coming together. So it's something you might want to look at. And I'm going to, when I'm not so busy teaching, I'm going to try to spend a little more time getting over and learning what Selby's shown us. And I keep on saying, go to Selby's blog. He has connections around the world. I will say Europe is way ahead of us. Us American folks, we tend to want to, we're a little more geography bound. Europeans are more willing to be virtual. So you'll meet with a lot of different people if you look at his blog too. But before we leave virtual and look at augmented, I want to show you there is a range. You can go from what Selby is showing possible, you know, something like SimCity, something like a web-based interface, where you can really, you know, get interactions going that aren't particularly realistic. The other end of the spectrum are the games. And I just went and took a picture from one game. Games are wonderful, and you're going to have Mark talking more about them a little later. In terms of developing a game interface, there's a lot of tutorials. Lynda.com, which is free to Empire State College students, can really get you started in something like Unity. It's a big investment. Right now, what we are doing is using, for most educators, using the benefits of what other people have done is what we do. Yes, and you'll see in a moment, augmented reality comes from Unity. And so today, the more advanced versions. So Unity is essentially free. If you're not making more, and Mark will be going over this a little bit more, so I don't want to steal his thunder, and also I don't want to misinform you, but Unity and also Unreal Engine, which is another big game platform, are essentially free when you're learning. You know, if you make, I think Unity, if you make over $150,000 from your game, you owe them money. I think that's, and there are some school platforms, but it's not, so it's not a question of being unaffordable. It's just a question of putting the time into the skill level. And I wanted to bring this up before we leave, and I'm keeping an eye on the time. So I'm going a little bit fast because I do want to go through all of this, but you will have these slides. To really get to the level of something like Unity, you can start with Mark's course, or you can take my augmented reality course where we use it in a very limited way. You need to invest time. There's no way around that. And I was trying to help somebody the other day get a certificate in something like Unity, the game engines. You could get a certificate. It would require 800 hours. That's how they spec'd it out, 800 hours. And so it's, you can learn Unity on your own through lynda.com, and they have some very good work there. But when you get up to that level of quality, it's going to take you more time. But keep in mind, the game industry is huge. And that's what this little arrow is pointing to. They make more money than the entertainment industry. And I think, you're starting to see this integration of virtual and real. And so keep in mind, but I think we can do some baby steps in our program. We do have options where if you have found a course that you want to take someplace else and bring it in, if it meets our graduate requirements, that's a possibility. So I will say, if you really want to go that deep, I think it's very interesting. I'm enjoying it myself, but it's a big investment. So keep that in mind as you decide about what you're going to do. A couple more directionals, though, before we see augmented. Virtual has been around for a while. MOSES is an acronym for one of the military operations that were done in this environment we're in right now. Is called OpenSim, Open Simulator. It's been freely donated. The coding that goes behind making these islands has been made available by programmers for free. And so if you really want to get into making these 3D islands, we have a course that I teach. Dr. Alon can teach it as well, where you will be brought through the steps of getting these islands. Jeremy's done that. Steph's here. Quite a number of our students have created their own islands. So you'll learn how to do it. It's not difficult to create a basic island. But to get to this level of sophistication that you might see with MOSES, the military put a lot of money into creating an open source island. And they've found they were actually using it to as a precursor to going into a hostile environment where you might have civilians. And they found that they could have, I guess, civilian avatars and, could test out some of the reflexes that these soldiers would need. Anyway, it's been around in the military for quite a while. The aviation business has used simulations for a long time. And I'll show you some of the work that our students are doing. There's a program out of England that actually has used these avatars, as you could see here, to simulate how you line somebody up for an X-ray. And we have a number of students that are coming in from health environments. This is not something you could develop easily. It was very expensive software. It integrates in the science and technology. You actually go in, you set the parameters for the X-ray machine, and so you can see how they're teaching you how to line up the patients. And I learned from our students that a big issue in healthcare is getting learners into an environment where they can, get access to patients. This equipment, and an X-ray is just one example, is very expensive. And so how can you train people offline before you get them into the expensive equipment that is being used almost around the clock for patients? So we have a student right now who I think Dr. Gal is working with him. The licensing here was very expensive. The license itself per student was $5,000. So there are some issues. Yeah, another good point. It limits the exposure for the student, the teacher. So the patient, unfortunately, must get the exposure, but you really want to reduce that issue. Here's another thing that one of our students is doing, and he trains technicians to work in an operating room. And we're segueing now over to more of the augmented reality. What they don't want to do is they can't clinically spend too much time in an operating environment to actually train people. So they're using these 360 cameras to come in and take an experience, and then you could zoom around this room. I think I got this picture from the web, if I recall. I'm sorry I didn't save the URL. But again, they're trying to optimize the time in these high quality and high profile environments. We have another Mallet student right now who's beginning to use augmented reality. She's planning to use it. They have mannequins in hospitals, and the nurses need to be trained, the technicians need to be trained, and the mannequins are very expensive. They're the more robust mannequins, so to speak, have a lot of programming built in. They can respond, but they get out of date. And so she's looking into ways to design interfaces that would be augmented. This nurse might actually bring, she's working with iPads first, bring an iPad over the face of the mannequin, which would then recognize something, and her immediate excuse me, her immediate application is to look at the pupils dilating. So that's something's worked on. She has found, though, augmented reality is a lot more work, and so she's looking more at the design aspect right now, but she's going to get back into that. So now I want to transition over. Okay, we've got virtual. Now we're looking at augmented, but how can you enter augmented? And here's something I want to, let's see if we can do this. I would like you to look at an experience for a minute. What I found, you used to be able to upload a 360 camera output into YouTube, and you could actually scroll around it. What's happened, though, they've created some new interface, and the things that I could do just last week are not doable. But what I want to do now, bear with me for a minute, I have to open something else, is, so when you get this link, when you get this a PowerPoint, you can try to go in and actually see this Google expedition, but it doesn't really have the 360 camera on it anymore. But I'm going to send you a link that I got through the help of Selby, and I'll ask you for a moment if you wouldn't mind just popping out of this. And when you go into this, you're going to see something from the Natural History Museum that quite effectively used a 360 camera environment and mocked it up to make it as if it was an immersive experience, and you don't need the headsets. We're going to talk about headsets momentarily. So I'm going to just put this into the chat. If you wouldn't mind just going there, what you do is you get the URL, just look at it quickly, try to zoom around, give yourself like a minute or two, and then you leave that and then click your Firestorm button again, and you'll be back here. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment, visiting, let me say, press enter, visiting this URL, and okay, I'm going to move on so that you can see a little bit more, but that's kind of an example how 360 cameras are starting to be used. And I would say what you have to keep in mind is you get it over onto actually to a store, something, or you can send the app directly to people. And what they can do today, because your smartphone is actually a mini computer that has a lot of other features built into it that can let you, you know, actually do 3D locations. We'll talk about that in a minute, but something like that does not require the 3D type of locations, but you can, well, everything is changing. The whole purpose of this lecture and our program is that everything is switching very quickly. And so the cell phone, though, is making a lot of things available. Now, have any of you used the Google headsets yet? And yeah, I bought one. It cost me $10. You get a piece of cardboard with some lenses in it. Oh, Richard is showing off. He has an Oculus. And I'll show that in a minute. If you really want the robust experience, though, you need to get something more advanced. This was just a picture that I got right from I get right from Google. I think Google was selling this, and you'll have all of these. If you want to, now you've got to think about your audience ultimately. Will they have these materials? But I'll just show you. So low entry is you can get this, you put your cell phone in it. If you've gone to an app that is in the 3D format, you get quite an experience. I was able to test this summer with a bunch of people that you'll see at the end, and they were truly amazed. So that's kind of the low entry into these 3D type of environments. But personally, I like it best when I can go in through my big computer, come in through something like a YouTube that allows me to do the 360 scrolling, which was available to me until last week. I'm hoping that I just have to update my browser. You will see Google is moving into this big time, and they keep on changing what they have. So keep in mind, if you need to have a high comfort level with what you're doing, stay out of this field right now. But if you can handle uncertainty, move into it. It's exciting. You can join from a simple headset, or you can purchase more refined work. And the lady up at the top, she's using what they call haptic devices so that she can physically move her body to interact with the app that she's looking at, which has something to do with cars. You will see that commercial applications are running with this because they honestly have more funding, more resources, and they have to move into this to stay in business. And I think we have 3 students who are staying on to look at augmented reality, and they all come in through the retail business. You really need to do that. Just to show you, though, I want to say 360 cameras are wonderful. This is just a picture of what I did this past summer. There's my grandson looking a little bit bored, but that was a 360 that I took. They're an easy way to start moving into this on your own. And this was a Samsung camera that I got for, I think, $60. Paid a little more to get the stand to stabilize it, and it came with some software that gave me some very basic editing. I was able to then upload it to YouTube, and until last week, I could do a 360 look around. And so right now, Google's playing with the interface. We'll see where it winds up. And so that's another thing that you can look at. But just some notes on 360 cameras. They're wonderful, but you need to have a scene that's interesting. We do have, like, for example, that healthcare industry. Okay, finding out what's going on in an operating room is very important. But if you're just sitting there taping the family, I'm not sure whether 360 is that interesting. And you also, as with any technology, need context. The technology is not the answer. The technology is just a tool. So you're always going to need to have a reason for people to go there, instructional supports. So just keep in mind, 360 is a nice way to play with getting in. But you need to have a reason. And here's another Mallet student who Dr. Gal and I have both worked with, who works for SUNY Maritime, where they actually need 360 cameras. They work through expensive, and drones too. This field is really growing. She needs to teach people how to dock 2 vessels near each other in the high seas, which apparently is non-trivial. If one vessel is going one way and others going another way, you've got a problem. She got 360 footage, and she did spend some money, and she also got a nice grant from SUNY to actually start looking at more sophisticated editing. So that's just to show there is a lot more sophisticated editing, but it's going to cost you money. But if that's really where you need to go, you can do that. But just to say, before you look at making your own augmented environment, Google and Google Mapping and some of these mapping programs are amazing. Go into them. Google's been working from Google Earth for a long time. It used to be you had to download more expensive pro versions. I think you actually had to pay for it. But there's a lot that is now available for free. It's very changing, and I think you're going to want to invest in that environment. I do have another URL to show you about this. Oh no, somebody figured out how to turn the slides. Actually, I did. Let me see if I can go back. Okay, let me see. Yeah, she actually came and spoke to our students, and to actually she came into this virtual space, so we have a recording of what she presented us with. So she's done a great job. This is just another example of the things you can find from Google. And what we need to do, though, now, as we're starting to wrap this up, is where can we go with augmented? And how I'm always looking, yes, the sky is the limit, but how can we, practically speaking, do this? And this is just a quote that I got from a book that those who are taking the course will be using, just looking at augmented reality and where it's going to go. It's still new. Oh, this was 2012, which is kind of old by today's standards, but it's still something new. How do we work it in? Commercial industries are starting to need this sooner, but how can we get these things in? What you need to think about, though, if you're designing for augmented reality, is how will people actually see your work? You know, will the YouTube 3D hopefully will come back? Can they come in from their smartphones? Do they need headsets? Do they need a good desktop? What commercial industry wants, though, is to get something that can ultimately get onto a smartphone as an app. So that's where you have to go there. And I'm going to show you an example in a moment, but let's see where we can go from here. Now, how do you develop it? Okay, so you have a reason to create an augmented reality experience. So how do you actually develop that? And that's where today it's still not particularly turnkey. And we will be having on December 5th, I invite you back because we're going to have Jeremy, Steph, and Jen developing an augmented reality app, and we'll see how far they got, and we'll ask them about how that works for them. But what I'm going to do for a moment is, if you haven't experienced some of this, I did find a YouTube that is only 2 minutes long. You don't have to look at all of it, but I'm going to put it in the chat, which is showing you some of the commercial applications. Sorry, I had to move closer. I was losing some of the slides here. So I hope you got a chance to visit that at least quickly to see potential. I just wanted to point out, I don't know if any of you, do any of you use QR codes, quick response? If you've downloaded an app onto your phone, you can be able to see those. Yeah, I haven't used them myself, but they're very easy to generate. You can do it for free. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Jen is one of the ladies who will be working on some of her apps. Yep, prescription refills. Easy to do. They're free. I think I have that in the handouts that you can look at. But I put some QR codes on my desktop, then took my cell phone over it and was able to actually open up my website. I had put a website as my QR code. So that's just a point that you've been doing some of this. But now let's say you want to go big time, as some of our notoriously wonderful people who are in this class are going to do. Let's see how you can, with today, which doesn't really have turnkey solutions the way we have, is to move into some of the more robust developing tools. And Unity is really the best at this point. When you're just a developer, it's not going to cost you much. You can get licensing kind of on a monthly basis. I don't know if Mark will be talking about that this afternoon, but you can easily go to their website and find out how you can get entry. What you need to do to get into some of the mapping applications, and I developed my own applications this past summer, and I'll share it with you, but I'd like you to look at, I want to send you one more link. And by the way, have you been able to look at the links that I've sent you? Is that something that's working? Okay, good. I'm going to just send you one from Google. And they have a little, I think when you get there, it automatically goes into a kind of YouTube about augmented. And click into that for a minute and see where they're hoping this field will go to. So just take a moment and visit that URL.